Welcome back. It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Jubilant detectives today heaved a sigh of relief after 5 major drug barons were wiped out of the South Essex equation. Endless police hours have been poured into the triple killing investigation, held by the officer heading the case as the most important of his career. The costly Rettendon case will most definitely have an impact on the drugs being sold on the streets of Essex. Detective Superintendent Brian Story, who led the murder investigation, said the death of the 3 drug barons and life sentences for their 2 killers would help reduce dealings. He added, quote, "There will be a big difference in the short term, but I cannot say how things will develop in the long term." Mr. Story, 47, said the case was one of the most important battles against drug dealers over the past 30 years. He went on to praise colleagues for their professionalism and the many arduous hours they spent trying to secure a conviction for the gruesome murders. He added, quote, "This case has been a long, difficult haul. It has been one of the most important I have had to deal with and probably one of the most important of my career." Mr. Story said the dreadful killings are yet more evidence of the evil of drugs. He explained, quote, "The people who suffer are not only those who sacrifice their health and income to become victims of the dealers. Life for drug suppliers is also very risky. There is no trust or honour in the drugs world." In this case, 3 lives have been taken and 2 men are starting life prison sentences for these murders. Mr. Story said he could not comment on the evidence of Supergrass Darren Nichols, the main prosecution witness, or a related trial involving other defendants later this year. The following newspaper articles from the 21st of the 1st, 1998, with the headline, "Dealers Warned, Think Twice." The parents of ecstasy victim Leah Betts hope the savage deaths of the Rettendon trio will make today's young drug dealers think again. Janet and Paul Betts were also delighted that life sentences for Wombs and Steele mean 2 fewer smugglers on the streets. Former policeman Mr. Betts admitted, quote, "Although killing them was not the right way to sort things out, there will be no tears shed for the 3 that are dead. They were known drug dealers and people are still suffering from some of the things they did in the past. I believe they got off lightly. At least their deaths were quick and clean. I hope a lot of young people will have seen this because drug dealers are icons to them. They see the flash BMWs, the beautiful clothes, the mobile phones and never seem to think anything bad can happen. I hope this will register with would-be dealers who are already flogging cannabis at £10 a time in schools. Because before too long there will be another Wombs and Steele, and it may not be a shotgun this time, it may be a machete, and they will be cut down to size. Literally." Basildon College student Leah died at her 18th birthday party at Mr. and Mrs. Betts' home in Latchington. The ecstasy tablet she took had been bought at Raquel's nightclub in Basildon, where murder victim Tony Tucker controlled the drugs. Mrs. Betts said, quote, "Justice has been done. It's 2 more dealers off the streets. We will have to wait and see what sentences they get now for smuggling." The following newspaper articles from the 21st of the 1st, 1998, with the headline, "How I Caught the Killers." Superintendent Ivan Dibley was enjoying breakfast at his Chelmsford home when his telephone rang that snowy morning. He was being offered the chance to take over what would be his last and possibly most complex case, the triple gangland killing of Tate, Tucker and Rolfe. But December the 7th, 1995 was Mr. Dibley's day off, and he had promised his daughter he would sort out an electrical problem. He had headed more than 25 murder cases in the previous 5 years and was due to retire following 32 years in the force. Only 2 remained unsolved. But 1995 had proved to be a good year, and he had cleared up 10 murders in as many months. Relaxing on a leather sofa at his home just weeks ago, Mr. Dibley explained, quote, "I knew those bodies weren't going anywhere. No murder scene is a pretty sight. During my years in the force I have dealt with kiddies burnt in fires and elderly women with their heads bashed in. But considering these men had been shot at close range with a shotgun, it could have been far, far worse." It didn't take long to identify the bodies. The Range Rover was registered to Rolfe, and detectives had in fact questioned him the day before. Steele was in the frame from day one. A friend of Rolfe's revealed the dead men had met him that evening. But police could not prove his finger was on the trigger. With virtually no forensic evidence, the team had to find some other way to catch him. Detective Inspector Ivan Dibley said, "There wasn't even much on house-to-house inquiries. They took less than a day." As he wondered where to turn next, Dibley developed a theory about the murders. Quote, "I suspected that Tate was the catalyst, and I proved to be nearly 100% right. I think after being incarcerated for quite a long time, he suddenly came out into the big wide world. Tucker took him under his wing and he was soon dealing with large amounts of money. I think it began to go wrong because not only was Tate by nature a violent man, but towards the time of his death he was becoming increasingly unstable due to drugs." But there was still a long way to go before Steele and Wombs would be arrested, and by then another officer, Superintendent Brian Story, would have taken over the case. Dibley said, quote, "Although we had an indicator who it was, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. Some policemen may think they are God, but I don't. I knew the people who were close to these characters would have a good idea of what was going on, but no one talked, and that's why a strategy had to be adopted. The strategy included a sting operation using two officers posing as IRA members Billy and John. The pair made a series of phone calls to Steele and Tate's ex-girlfriend Sarah Saunders, claiming they had lent Tate money for a drug deal with Steele and now they wanted it back. They also threatened Steele, perhaps hoping to goad him into admitting the murders. A terrified Sarah Saunders went to Basildon Police Station, who played along with the sting and said the calls had been made from a well-known Republican bar in Belfast. They said detectives were monitoring the men responsible, but had lost track of them when the gang travelled to the mainland. The idea appears to have been that Sarah, frightened for her life and her young son's safety, would spill the beans on Tate, Tucker and Rolfe. Dibley, justifying the undercover operation, said, "We wanted to flush Steele out. We also wanted to provide evidence which we could put before the court." Dibley admitted Billy and John were an unusual tactic. Quote, "There was a risk we wouldn't be able to use them in court, but when you have no evidence, you have no choice." The team also checked mobile phone records and discovered Wombs made a call from Rettendon on the night of the killings. The case was 3/4 complete when Dibley retired, only 2 weeks before Steele, Wombs, Nichols and others were arrested on May 13th, 1996. Detective Inspector Ivan Dibley added, "I knew they had done the murders, I knew they were involved in drugs, and I knew we hadn't enough evidence to convict them. All we needed was a bit of luck. Everything had been put into place, and given a fair wind it would have the result it deserved." But he admitted, quote, "It was quite galling having to leave before the investigation was finished. However, it doesn't matter when you retire from the police, it's never convenient." It was Dibley's groundwork that led to the successful conclusion of the case. During his research, Dibley had discovered Nichols was an associate of the killers. Quote, "It was my view that the peripheral people involved would not want to dirty their hands with a triple murder. They were the weak link. And it was Nichols who eventually provided the vital evidence to nail Steele and Wombs." If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.